Hey everybody, it's Christina from Creations with Christina. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and don't forget to give today's video a thumbs up. Today we're going to be talking about beginner machine embroidery, what you need to get started with using an embroidery machine. Thought we would just start off with the machine. So in my video I recently posted, I did get a baby lock flare, which is right behind me. And so far I'm loving this machine. I'm having a blast. I've made a couple of different projects so far. I have a video coming out for you with like my first official project, and that'll be out soon. But I thought I would talk to you about not my machine, but just the embroidery machine in general, what you want to look for if you are interested in getting an embroidery machine. Now they range in so many different prices. There's, down to just about $1,000 to well over, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. They are an investment. I'm not going to tell you that it's cheap. They are an investment. If you're looking for an introductory machine and something that's not on the expensive side, I would recommend either the Baby Lock Verve, which is a 4x4 hoop. So if you're looking for something that you're not going to be doing big projects, that would be a good machine to try out. I believe on one of the websites I was on, it was around $900, and that's the low end of the pricing for embroidery machines. They're pretty expensive. There's also Brother PE 800, which is a 5x7 hoop, and then there's another one that's a PE 1900, which is also a 5x7 hoop. They both, I've seen videos on those two machines, and they were up for as a contestant for what I was going to purchase, one of those two Brother machines. And because I don't know anything, I really never saw anything about the Baby Lock Verve, which is the 4x4 hoop, so I can't give you anything, any details on that. But I did see it is a good price. The hoop size is much smaller, and as I mentioned in my video, you definitely want to go with a machine that fits your price range, and then a machine that has the biggest size hoop for your price range. Because I have a feeling I'm already like thrilled and happy that I got one that has the bigger size hoop, because I'm already thinking of projects that will require that bigger hoop. But for just day-to-day crafting and just using it as a craft and not as a business, which is all I'm going to be doing, I think a 5x7 hoop would be perfect for a beginner. So I thought I would go through some supplies that I purchased when I first got my machine. So these are the things that you're going to need for when you purchase your machine, and there's going to be some things in there that you kind of don't need, but the information's out there and you might want to look into it. So the first thing I thought I'd talk about is hoops. Again, depending on what size machine you get will depend on how many, size hoops you can get. So my machine does the 6x10. So it came with this big hoop right here, which is the 6x10 hoop, the largest one that can be used in the machine. It also came with a 5x7. Most machines come with, with their own hoops with them. However, they say they're 5x7. They're 5 point whatever, but actually the dimension is a little bit larger than that. But you do have to be careful when you're setting things up. Your clearances are around the outside of your hoop. And then I purchased separately, right after my machine came and I started to work on my projects, a smaller hoop, because I did find that I didn't want to waste material by having to use a 5x7. So I did pick up a 4x4, and this one is just one I bought on Amazon. And then purchased separately when I did order my machine, I ordered a magnetic hoop, which is this thing. My next video is going to be a project that I'm using this hoop, and it was so easy to lay my stabilizer and my project in here, and it just held together perfectly. So I thought I would talk about thread. So there's tons of brand name threads out there, and they can be very pricey. I found through the Facebook pages that or Facebook groups that I've joined, a lot of people were talking about Smith thread, and I think you call this bro thread. This one's a polyester thread, so I think this is called bro thread. This is on Amazon, and they had recently, this goes on sale a lot, especially the one Facebook group I'm in. I do see people posting, oh, it's got a nice discount, and they come in different size packages. So I believe this one was a 40 pack, and it came with all different 40 different colors. And I've been using it, and I've had no problems so far. That was, I think, around $23. And it came with 40 different threads. It's a polyester thread, but they have other packs of thread that has like more color options. And I did recently see the 60 pack on sale for just under $30, which still is a great deal. And like I said, there are options to buy brand name threads, but I've found this, the one that's available on Amazon, to be, pretty good quality. I'm pretty happy with it. The other type of thread you're going to need is for your bobbin. Now, one thing to keep in mind, your top thread will be a different weight than your bobbin thread. You have to use a bobbin thread for the bottom of the machine. You can buy pre-wound bobbin threads. You do have to be careful because some machines require certain size bobbins. So my machine requires a class A bobbin. So my advice would be to, if you're looking at this machine and you pick what machine you want, to go ahead and download the manual and just read through the types of threads, weights that the machines need, because you don't want to spend money and then find out you have the wrong type of thread. So that's my advice. You can buy pre-wound thread, so people will wind their own thread and pre-wound. You could buy pre-wound on Amazon, and I bought the pre-wound. My sewing machine, I've always wound my own, but I bought the pre-wound, and I will say it's much easier than going through and winding your own thread. I think I just bought a small package of it for like $8, just because I wanted to try it before I invested in bigger packages, which I think they have bigger packages of like 100 and some pre-wound bobbins, and I thought to start I didn't need 100 and some of them, but the 12 pack worked out great, and I haven't even gone through. It doesn't even look like I used anything so far, and I've done a couple stitches on my machine. So like I said, for both of the upper thread, which is the thread that kind of goes on the top of your fabric, and the bobbin thread, which is on the bottom of your fabric, you do want to read your manual to see what size weight thread your machine requires. And also you want to check your size of your bobbin if you're buying pre-wound bobbins, to check the size of the bobbin that you need, so when you go to order, you order the right kind. There are different types of stabilizers, and there's certain times you use those type of stabilizers. There's cutaway, tearaway, and washaway. Those are the three main ones. And how they are described is exactly, or what they're named is exactly what they do. So the tearaway is when you use that, this is a piece of the tearaway, you can actually just rip it away from the embroidery. The cutaway won't tear, so you have to use a pair of scissors to do that. And then the wash away literally will wash away with water. So each one of those different categories has subcategories. So the cutaway, I have a medium cutaway, but there's also like a fusible cutaway, there's a softer cutaway, so it just depends on what you need it for, and each one of these are used for different types of projects. So cutaway is ideal for things that are a little bit like have a stretchier material, like knits and wovens, a sweatshirt, a t-shirt. That's when you'd want to use your cutaway. For things like a towel, if you're doing a nice plush towel or something that's thicker like a sweatshirt, you may want to add a wash away stabilizer to the top of it, and you would actually stitch on top of that. It just helps keep the stitches on the surface rather than down into the fabrics, where it might end up, because if you're using a plush item that will kind of sink into the fabric, it keeps it more up to the top. And the tearaway, there's, again, like I said, there's different types of tearaway, and for that you would use it for anything that's, like a shirt that's not a stretchy material, you'd probably use it for that. Stabilizers, I'm still learning all about stabilizers. So I don't have any recommendations about for what brand name stabilizers to get. So far I've been using Stay Perfect because that's what I received free with the promotion on my machine. And I know that there are versions or different types of stabilizers that you can get on Amazon that I've seen a lot of people raving about and that are very good. But I'm not going to recommend those because I haven't used them yet. So maybe in the future, when I run out of this stabilizer and have to replace, I'll try the Amazon kind. So the other thing is needles. You just don't have the needle that comes with your machine. You're going to want to buy a variety pack, because you're going to want needles for different types of materials. For example, you need a 7511 needle for, I believe they call it a ballpoint needle. That's used for if you're going to do any kind of vinyl projects. It just means that it doesn't make quite a big of a hole in your material, which is very visible. So I would buy a variety pack of different size needles for your embroidery machine. And you do have to make sure you buy embroidery machine needles. You just can't use a sewing machine needle. Materials: shirts, pants, towels, totes, hats, beanies, fabric, vinyl. There's so many different things that we can embroider on. I've seen cardstock and people making cards with embroidery machines, so I thought that was pretty cool. Fabric, if you want to get into doing applique, you definitely want to look at different types of fabric or different pattern fabric. You want to get cotton, and you only need about 1/4 yard. You don't need a whole lot of fabric, and even 1/4 yard is more than enough. And watch for sales. Just pick up patterns when you're at your local sewing and fabric store, and just buy 1/4 yard of any kind of cotton fabric, and you'll be making tons of different things. I have an applique that I'm really excited about trying out, and that's where you're going to need the fabric, is when you're working with the applique. Scissors. All right, so I have these Tim Holtz scissors I've had for the longest time. I believe his new scissors have black handles, but this is my red handled one. And I love these scissors. It has a little cap that you keep on the top, but what I like about it is it's got the nice little tiny point. And this is perfect for when you are clipping your threads. When you're done running your machine, you have to clip your threads from the different stop points on the machine. So you're definitely going to need a nice thin pointy tip of scissors. Pointy tip scissors. You're also going to need to get yourself some applique scissors. This particular applique scissors right here is great for when you're going, if you're doing an applique and you need to cut out material around and get as close to your stitches as you can. This is great for that. This is also good for getting into those little tiny spots. They've got a little bit of an angle to them, and both of them have an angle to them. But it helps you get pretty close to your stitches without actually cutting your stitches, but you still have to be careful. But it's also good for trimming those threads. So scissors is very important. I'm actually keeping my scissors away from all of my other crafting scissors because I know I'll pick them up and I'll try to use them on something sticky, and we don't want to do that. Next, we're going to talk about designs. So your machine will come with designs. Some machines have a lot more options, and some machines only have a few design options, but they're built into your machine. So as soon as you get your machine, that is my advice. Start working with those first. Don't worry about going online and ordering, looking at people's designs and buying a whole bunch of them. Play with those first. It's a great way to get to know your machine, get to know the functions and all the little buttons and the things that you need to do to get yourself going. So that's my number one thing. That's what I did. That was the advice I got from another video that I had watched, was use the machine designs first. Then you can go online and start playing with all these amazing fonts and designs that you can download, and you can put them onto a USB or a flash drive and transfer them over to your machine and cut them, or not cut them, I keep saying cut, to stitch them out. It is so much fun. You're gonna have a blast. I am having a ton of fun shopping, but playing with the different designs that I've been finding and playing with fonts. Now, most designs, if you're not messing with fonts and just looking at designs, if you don't want to have a name with it, or if it already has fonts built into the design, all you need to do is put it onto a USB drive or a flash drive. So the one thing I have learned is that the memory on a embroidery machine is not like a computer. It's not going to have the capability of taking a flash drive that's got a ton of gigabytes on it and being able to pull that design in. So I tried an 18 or 16 gig flash drive, and my machine didn't recognize it. I searched my house for one of those freebies that I got at one of those work promotional things when you go to a conference and they're handing out free flash drives, and usually those flash drives are only 8 gig, and it worked. So find yourself a very low gig flash drive. I'm not going to be storing all of my designs on it. I'm just going to be using it to transfer onto my embroidery machine and then doing my stitching from there. Just a tip for your flash drives: when you go to buy one on Amazon, if you're using Amazon, type in 8 gig flash drive. If you just type in flash drive, it's going to be really hard to find an 8 gig flash drive. I did find that if I typed in 8 gig and I saw one that said it was 8 gig, but I went in, it was 32 gig. So just be careful when you're looking for them, because 8 gig hard drives are flash drives, not hard drives. Flash drives are really hard to find because 8 gig is not going to give you much storage space for documents or photos or anything like that, but it is perfect for transferring your embroideries or your designs over to your embroidery machine. Do you need software for an embroidery machine? Maybe. It depends on what you're doing. So if you're just going to be going online and, you know, purchasing somebody's design and then just uploading it onto your flash drive and then putting it into your machine and doing it that way, then you don't need software. But if you want to do things like font work, if you want to add fonts or you want to be able to pick different types of fonts, you want to take a design and incorporate a font, you know, design that you got from purchased, and then put a font like somebody's name with that design, you're probably going to need a software. I'm using Brilliance, but there are other types of companies out there that have software that works with your embroidery machine. And Brilliance kind of reminds me a little bit of Silhouette Studio, where they have like a free level and then they have steps up. So like Silhouette Studio goes all the way up to like a business level, and this one goes up to a design level where you can actually take images and turn them into stitch files. I'm not there, I'm down at the bottom. So did purchase the first level just so that I can add fonts. You can't mix designs, like you can't take one design and add another design to it to make it into one project. You do need to pay for that level. So I did go ahead and purchase that, but I have a little bit of a Photoshop knowledge, and it seemed to have helped me knowing that program like Microsoft Publisher, Photoshop, and using those, it kind of helped me a little bit because a lot of it kind of works the same way. So yeah, you might need a software if you do plan on trying to put designs together or kind of personalize another design that is out there. Let's talk about storing and organizing your new stuff. I went through and I tried to use stuff that I already had, which we all know I have a ton of storage stuff that gets moved in and out from behind me 100 times a year. I'm guilty of it, I know. So I try to use a lot of that. The only thing that I did purchase for storage wise was, in the beginning I purchased this little case to go with my threads, to hold my threads, but then I found the deal for the larger count of the embroidery threads on Amazon, and I ended up using my nail polish holders that I was using to store my Nouveau drops for card making, and I put them back on the wall, and now I have a nice little colorful wall back there with thread. But this little guy right here is from Amazon. It's also, I think this is also by the same company that makes the thread. Each layer holds 10 spools of thread, and then you can buy multiple layers. The only thing I don't like about this is that I find it really hard to clip, let's see if I can get it, to clip the tops of it and even the sides. I can even do it. So even the sides, if you don't have these sides lined up perfectly, it's not going to clip, which is why I ended up going with something that I can put on my wall. Another little storage tip is if you don't have these, I've got a ton of these from different kits. Like these are all Studio Calico bags from kits that I had gotten for card making and crafting, and I found them great to hold all those little scissors. I have one for holding my needles and all of the little tools that came with my machine. So you get the little bag here that has like your extra bobbin and your spool caps and stuff like that. And then I took my needles and put them in here too. So these are all corralled into one spot, and I just keep them in my drawer behind me. So if you have these types of bags, I love the kind that have the sewing. I don't know if it's in the plastic, but these are my favorites because they don't really fall apart. Can't poke through them, and I've had them for years. And I do know that you can buy bags like this on Amazon. Organizing your fabric if you decide to get into fabric. Years and years ago, I was watching Chicken Scratch here on YouTube, Angie. She's a long time YouTuber that does lots of 3D paper crafting projects. I believe she's a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, but she also does amazing sewing, and I love her sewing. But years ago, she had posted a video on how she stores her fabric, and what she uses is just the comic book boards that you would buy to store your comic books into sleeves, and she wraps her fabric around that. So you just need the comic book boards, that's hard to say, and little fabric pins so you can clip your stuff onto the boards. That's an organizational tip if you get into fabric. So one of my last organizational tip is a binder. So I have this binder from Amazon. I've had it for quite some time. It used to be what I kept my color swatches in for my inks and stamps and dyes and stuff like that. So I had this binder already on hand. So again, not something I had to buy. What I did was I took my instruction manual and I took my big Crop-A-Dial and I punched through some holes, binder holes, so that I can keep my quick reference and my embroidery design guide right inside this binder. Right now it sits in the front, but eventually when I really get to know my machine, I'll probably slip these to the back of my binder because I won't have to refer to it as much. The other thing I have are just a bunch of the page protectors that you'd buy for your binders. I have one that's got my instructions or my informational about my magnetic hoop, one that tells me about how to transfer designs. This is the Bro thread. I think I'm saying Bro thread, if that's right. This is just a reference guide, so it compares the Bro thread to other brands like Brother Embroidery and Madeira polyester and stuff like that. Those are different types of brands of thread. I have things like my cheat sheet for my cutaway that tells me, the different types of stabilizers. I also found this cool guide that tells me where things should be positioned on a shirt. I stuck my very first embroidery machine embroidery cuts in here just because I wanted to. And then in the back, which will eventually get moved to the front, are a couple of the designs, and I'm using this kind of as a way for me to really get familiar with the machine. So in Brilliance, the software, you can print out your design and it will print out also a color guide. So this is my Creations with Christina logo, which I have a video that I'll be showing you how I did this coming up. And I took the guide and used it to write down the colors to my brand of thread. And then I have the actual design clipped here because what you do is you take your design and you can cut it out and you can use that to help center everything in your hoop. And I'll show you that when we get into more projects with the embroidery machine. And then this one's just, I just love this little puppy dog. He is so cute. I think I got him from Designs by Juju. She had this puppy dog, and then I, with my software, put welcome on the top. And I went through and figured out what color threads for my brand of thread. I believe she uses the Brother thread. I'm not 100% sure. So I just went through and figured out what colors I would use, and I'm going to use this to make my first applique. So this binder is just going to end up being more, in the end, a place for me to store my cuts from my Brilliance machine so that I don't have to reprint everything every time I wanted to try to use that design. But it also serves as a good reference for me right now as my instruction book, and if I get stuck, that I could just whip it out and find the information I need. So yeah, that is probably my favorite organizational tip so far, because I've been into this binder a couple of times and I have everything referenced in one spot. So there you go. That is all of my tips and information and kind of my beginner to machine embroidery. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to give today's video a thumbs up, and I will link everything that I just talked about in the description down below in the YouTube video. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.